So I got these because I was wondering, is there a difference? Yes, there's increased square footage, but some advertise as better for odor, better for particles, better for tires? So that's why I made a bunch of tests like the fog test, but also odor, speed, and total cost so I can see which is best for which category and rank each one overall on a tier list at the end to see if I'm wrong or if I'm right, but still just as broke. So the first test is gonna be you can't do this in here, no. So basically, I'm gonna pump fog into my bathroom for 5 seconds every time for each purifier, and then I'll use the air monitor from Amazon to see how they do. I'll also equalize the noise to 53 dB. If it's quieter than that or louder than that, I'll subtract or add to the time. And to make it more entertaining, let's make it a race. And there they go. The PM in the middle is all we care about for this test, and the room is 35 square feet. We can skip forward a bit. 5 minutes and 42 seconds at a 52.6 dB average. Impressive. But if we equalize it, it'll be 5 minutes and 37 seconds. And honestly, this is very impressive. A+. Almost 2 minutes behind. That's almost 1.5 times slower. That's crazy. It's funny how the PM on the purifier only goes up 3 digits because they don't think anyone is dumb enough to do this. Well, it's me. I'm dumb enough. Overall, still pretty impressive, so B+. Almost a minute behind. Very surprising since the Core 400 is more expensive. I wanted to see what the difference between the circles and the triangles are, and I guess this is one of them. B-. Almost double the time, but I guess when you look at the prices, it's also double, so I guess it kind of makes sense. This is a C. Nobody actually cares about the max performance. They just set it to they can barely hear it and just leave that 24/7. I see you. I'm calling you out. And lastly, a D. And these are the final results, and I also calculated how much faster each of them are compared to the base model, Core Mini. I think the biggest surprise is definitely the jump from the Core 400 to the Core 600, with it being 50% faster and not that much more in price. It makes me think we're missing the Core 500, and I swear I looked everywhere, okay? I'm not stupid. Am I? No. It just doesn't exist. And all that's left to see is if the performance increase justifies the price increase, which we'll save for the cost section later on. As we move higher and higher in price, we'll get more features while still being simple and easy to understand. I like this guy. How much are we paying him? Zeros, sir. Good. Keep it up. As you might have guessed, the features are not gonna be like that. First up is the Core Mini. Pretty simple on-off button, but you gotta cycle through the fan speeds in order to turn it off. Detachable power cord, hold down power button to check the filters, and all Core products have nice grippy feet at the bottom, but only this model has the essential oil tray on the side. So all the Core products, you have this at the bottom where you can spin, and this one detaches from up here, and you can take the filter out just like that. This is definitely not my favorite version of this, and you'll see why. For now, C+. Next is the Core 200, and it has a lot more features. Dedicated fan button, so it's less annoying. You can turn the lights off, timer, additional super low fan speed with the night mode, a lock feature which I don't think it's too useful since you gotta hold it down, and you can't see when it's done since your finger is over it. But on the bright side, it's the first one to have Wi-Fi, schedules, and more timer options up to 24 hours. But the best part is the 2 levels of light underneath, very aesthetic. And this is what I meant earlier. For this one, you can spin it and just remove the plate. You don't have to remove the whole bottom section. And this is the filter. It requires much less force, and you can hold on to the top right here to change it. For the price, this is pretty good. A. But all good things must come to an end, and Levoit decided to slap us across the... And that's because they got rid of the raised center and just made it flat. So everything is the same, but they removed the light button for an extra timer of 6 hours, which to some people could be an upgrade, but it was already in the app, so it's okay. At least they still kept the same bottom design. Spin it, unlock, and the filter comes on. Just like this. There's also an extra handle right here, unlike the other filters. But we'll come to find out why this design will be an issue soon. But for now, B. The 400 is quite a bit bigger than the 300, so they introduced handles, but these are just deep enough for your fingertips, so it's not very comfortable. They also got rid of the timer. It's now displayed in the indicator from 1 to 12 hours. Much more convenient than using the app. It also introduces an auto mode and a PM sensor. And this is where the issue comes in. It's so big and bulky that it's hard to kind of take off the filter right here now. But because of the weight, you can spin it against the floor to get the filter out. And this is what it looks like. This is the cheapest one with the digital display, PM sensor, and also auto mode, so it's really good value. S. And now we have the biggest boy, the Core 600. Everything is the same, including the timer that only goes up to 12 hours. But this one forces you to open on the ground, which is the smartest way. But it does have a full-size handle now, and this is also the only one where the corners have no holes. All previous versions are round, and when you look inside, there's nothing preventing it from having the holes right there. By the way, this is the filter, huge. And that's all there is to the inside. But hear me out here, a circle has more surface area than a square, so this is technically saving space. But then why aren't all Levoit products cube? Because the circle reminds people of the sphere, and you know what that is, right? A globe. So they can force the flat earthers to buy the most expensive purifier. Or maybe for no reason at all. Thanks, Todd. Anyways, higher price, mostly the same features. A. In terms of features, this is definitely a downgrade from the last two. There's a PM sensor, but it doesn't tell you the levels, just blue and red. Timer is back to 2, 4, 8 hours, and it can only suck in air from one side. But you can clean the sensor here, and we have the return of the detachable power cable. I can see why they made this. It's much easier to get the filters out. 2 clicks right at the side. This is the filter, and at the back, this is where you see the carbon. There's also a separate pre-filter which you can take out and kind of vacuum here, but the circles already have a pre-filter built into it. This thing on the surface is the pre-filter, and probably the deepest and most satisfying handle out of all the purifiers. But you're not buying a purifier for the handles, so B+. So let's see how high the VOC gets with just a spray directly into the air measurement thing. You can't do this in here. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm stopping it here because none of this worked. I tried so many ways to test this. I tried putting it on a tissue. I tried spraying it into the filter. I tried spraying the air, and the results were always inconsistent. Because once the carbon inside right here absorbs odor, it's less effective. I've been using the Core 600 and also the Core 400 regularly, so the carbon inside is much weaker. The best way to rank them is to see how much carbon is inside each and every filter. And we have our friend Todd to help us. We have the Core 200 and 300 with the same amount. Not too surprising since they're both similar in size. Both C. Next up is the Core 600.
What?
This is the Core 400 filter, and this is the 600. Look at the... How is that possible? What's the 400 then? What? But when you look inside, this is the Core 600. You see how much space there are between the carbon. This is the Core 400. There's not too much space. You can barely see through it. You see there's a lot less space. So yeah, I guess that's believable. A for 400 and B for 600. Okay, what about the Vital 200 then? No, I'm leaving. I'm gone. I'm back. Look at the size difference. How is that possible? This is basically half the size. Look at this.
It's not possible.
And it was at this point where I became suspicious of Todd. What if he doesn't actually know what he's talking about? Or he knows I'm making a video and wants me to look stupid. So I asked another support, and guess what? I got the same answer. I guess it's time to give up and move on. Maybe other reviewers, but not here. So this was pretty simple. There's just a mesh that's glued onto the frame, and I just ripped it off. But now I realize I made a big mistake. How am I supposed to pour this? It's gonna go everywhere. So I used a box to cover the other sections and poured it all down. And this is the result. But now, for the moment of truth. It's... I knew it! 256 grams, highest out of all of them. Take that, Todd. So now I'm thinking, can we even trust them for the other products? Time for round 2. And this one was much harder. There's a metal mesh on the inside that's covering a regular mesh underneath. And what's worse is all the pellets are glued to another metal mesh underneath the regular one. So this is such a hassle, which I guess speaks to how well designed the Levoit products are. Even if there's a hole, no carbon is falling out. And this is the result. And the final count is 28, but there's still a ton of carbon in there that I couldn't get to. Not to mention, I couldn't get all the carbon off the mesh, so I believe there's around 40 grams total. But regardless, I'm feeling triumphant because I get to tell Todd he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I think what happened is on Amazon it's called the 200SP, but when you go to the actual website, it's only called the Vital 200S. So I did all that work for nothing. Cool. Also, Levoit has special filters that have extra carbon with ARC formula, which I don't have, but I might test these filters for the next video. Oh, I almost forgot about the Core Mini. As you can see on the inside, these aren't pellets. This is a whole carbon layer, so this is a different type of carbon. So the carbon might be less effective. So even if I cut it open, it wouldn't really matter. All I know is this is the smallest filter, so probably less than 40 grams, so D. But for now, if you want something just for odor, get the Vital 200 or the Core 400. But the Vital is a little bit cheaper, so that would be your best bet. But that won't mean anything unless it has enough fan speed, which... So being a product reviewer and a professional sleeper, I decided to handle this the only way I know how. Intimidation, but also spending one night with each purifier. Good morning. So I used the Core Mini last night. Since it couldn't push too much air, I kind of raised it all the way to the max level and it was a little bit loud. It also doesn't have auto mode, but the advantage is that it turns off all of its lights after a little bit, so I didn't have blue lights blast at me in the face while I was trying to sleep. Budget air purifiers are usually slower and louder because the fans inside are not too big. But for this one, the big surprise was actually the fan speed. Ta-da! It's a work in progress. How this works basically is put the purifier down here, you seal it with this plastic which is taped to the box so there's no air leak, and the only air pressure coming out is right here, which I cut a hole in the box so we can measure it. And this was the air quality last night. Not bad. See, the PM really only went up to like 2. The VOC is the highest it went. It was 37, which is not bad. It usually goes pretty high up, so it did do its job. So overall, not bad. And this air purifier pushed out a surprising amount of air, and with the auto dimming feature right here, it's pretty good. C+. So the first level was bit too slow for me, so I turned it to level 2. Still quieter than the Core Mini, but not by much. I did like that I was able to turn off the lights right away instead of just waiting for it to time out. And this is how I performed last night. PM really good. The VOC is really good as well, much better than the Core Mini. As you can see, the high was 3 for VOC, not too bad at all. A lot of new features. I love the light, but I never found myself using it that much. Or the timer, or the lock function. This might be more for people who have kids that are messing around with this. But I love having a dedicated fan button instead of, pressing the on-off button, rotating the fan speed like the Core Mini. It's more convenient, it's faster speeds, lower noise, so just straight up an upgrade. B-. I set it to level 2 again and it definitely felt quieter. Felt more like white noise than distraction. Again, this is quieter and faster than the last one, but this one's especially because when compared to the Core Mini, it is also quieter than the second level of the Core 200. Overall, pretty impressive, A. The trend continues with this being bigger, faster, and quieter. Same speed while being louder. How is that possible when the PM test showed it was faster? Well, not only is the size bigger, so is the filter. This is the 400 and this is the 300. 2 times, 3 times, I'm not sure, but a lot bigger than the previous one. So that's why it's so much harder to push air through all this filter. So even though it seems worse that it has the same speed, it is better because it's doing the same speed while doing way more filtering. So it's still an upgrade, but just a slight one. So I'll give it a B. Wait for the cost section to see a surprise benefit from this. That was quite nice. I only had it on level 2 when I was falling asleep. I could feel like there was a circulating blanket of air around me, while also being the quietest one so far. I could get used to this. This is definitely an upgrade, faster on all speeds and quieter in some. Level 2, which I had on, was faster and quieter to similar speeds in other ones. And they managed to pull this off with the limitations of an even bigger filter. biggest one by far. This was the last Core 400, quite a size difference. Bigger usually isn't better, but it was this time. S.
Had to use the second level even though I wanted the third because it was too loud. And I definitely didn't feel as much air.
This is almost slower and louder than the 300. What gives? It's the filters again. The Core 300 filter is around 2/3 the size of this one. But the Core 400 is almost double this one. So that's why the Core 400 is faster than the 200 SP on all speeds except one and around the same noise. So if you want a bigger filter but you don't want to spend the money on the Core 600, get the Core 400. But as for this one, C+. Overall, you're getting a crazy amount of value jumping up from the Core Mini to the Core 200, doubling the speed and max settings. And the speeds don't even go that much faster, even at the more expensive ones. But you do get faster filtering rates with bigger purifiers. And the Core 300 is only like $10 more than the Core 200, and you get a bigger filter, faster speeds, and lower noise. So if I'm talking about overall value, I think that the Core 300 might be my pick. And speaking of, you know how people say if you invest your money, you're actually investing in your future self? Well, I'm here to tell you, when you save your money, you're actually saving your money. Let's get into it. The average lifespan of an air purifier is around 5 to 10 years. So if we take the middle, 7.5 years, and assume we have it on 24/7. So coming in last place, no one's surprised. The Core 600 with a whopping $1,057.35 over 7.5 years. With the high base price and the high filter price, it's expected, but surprisingly, its electricity cost is actually only the third highest. These are the electricity costs in Vancouver, BC, where I live, so just keep that in mind. To make things easy, I also took the base price of the purifier and filter sold only by Levoit. You can find cheaper alternatives, or you can find the base and the filter on sale, which would be a great value. But overall, it's a D. For our fifth place, surprisingly, the Core 400S at $712.63. Why I say surprisingly? Because when we went over the 300 versus the 400 airflow, the 300 seemed like a better deal because it was the same performance for cheaper, but the 400 beat the 300 on almost every fan speed when it came to electricity used. And when we compare, it's almost half. But the higher base price and the filter price brought it down a lot. We got this by going into the manual of each air purifier to see when they need to be replaced and getting an average of the two. But if this went on for another 3 years, the 400 would definitely beat out the 300, but for now it's a C-. Fourth place by a whole $10, the 200 SP with $702.61. On paper, this is very similar to the Core 400. Same filter duration and price, but the 200 SP is higher in the electricity cost. So this would cost more in the long run. But interestingly, when we look at the watt, we see a crazy spike from medium to high fan speed, which would explain why the noise was so high in the sleep section. It's even louder than the 600 on high. Coming in third place, the airflow powerhouse, and now we know why. Its electricity usage was the highest of all purifiers with the overall $681.43. Surprisingly, the filter cost is third highest, so this would actually be quite costly in the long run. But for now, it's a B-. Continuing the trend of cheaper filter costs and cheaper electricity costs, the Core 200. But no one's surprised with the total cost of $584.01. But what is surprising is this is actually the cheapest filter per month cost. So with that, it's a B+. And finally, the first place, the Core Mini. It's actually very deceptive. Because the filter cost is actually the second highest, only after the monster, that is the Core 600. And this is how they look next to each other. This is crazy. But the electricity cost is actually 6 times cheaper than the second place, which is also crazy. But with the filter cost being so high, give this another year and it'll end up costing more than the Core 200. But nevertheless, I'll give this the crown A-. But keep in mind, this is purely just based on costs. If we compare the Core Mini to the Core 600, yes, it's double the price. But remember, the Core 600 is more than double the airflow and almost quadruple the particle filter speed. The value of the Core 600 is insane compared to the Core Mini. Another value pick is definitely the 200 SP, with it being only $20 more than the Core 300. But 2.8 times faster at PM filtering versus 1.65 times faster, and also cheaper electricity costs. So, with all that done, time for the final results. Honestly, I didn't think some of the purifiers were gonna be that good. But they were a lot closer than I thought. So each ranking was worth this amount of points, and you need at least this many points for each tier. And the last place is Core Mini with 10.5 points. And honestly, even if you want a budget air purifier, you should spend a little bit extra and you'll get so much more value. Speaking of, Core 200S with 13 points. Almost double the fan speed and a lot more features. But my value pick by far is Core 300S with 13.5 points. Because if you spend $10 more upfront, you get increased fan speed and particle filtering, but will run you more money in the long run. And speaking of, the Vital 200S with 14 points, because the total cost would just be $20 extra in the long haul. This is best for Odor. But if you just spend an extra $10, you'll get the Core 400 with 16 points. And this would be my personal choice and the one I'll be keeping because out of all the expensive ones, this has the least electricity costs, least filter costs, and only slightly lower fan speed than the 600, and just as much carbon for Odor as the Vital 200. And when you look at my air monitor chart, it's pretty easy for me to keep particles at 1 or even 0. But I routinely have spikes of VOC across the day, so carbon does way more for me, which actually made me extremely grateful to be at a point in life where I can make videos about improving my air quality and reviewing air purifiers, so thank you. Let's close this video out with a bang. The King, Core 600 with 19 points, which I don't really need to explain, so share the video if you enjoyed it and check out the links in the description if you want to support the channel. But for now, one sec. That's the thing I just found out, and that's why I got the 6 top rated Amazon humidifiers. I'm ranking each category on a tier list and also each product on a tier list at the end to see if I need to add humidifiers to a list of things that could potentially harm me.